This comes to us from WTTW News and Heather Sharon. And I want to thank Ed Heller for sharing this with me in our Slack this week, bring this story to my attention. Although I did see it, it was this particular take that I felt was best sharing. So I'll just run the WTTW report. I don't know that we're going to run the full 12 minutes, but let's bring it up to date and talk a little bit about what they're sharing instead of me droning on reading from the copy on the WTTW news site. So let me make sure the volume is up. Let's play it.
The Chicago Park District Board president is out after 2 reports detailing the leadership's mishandling of a sex scandal at the city's pools and beaches. Plus, a look at city council members wrestling over how to draw new board maps in tonight's Spotlight Politics. Here with all that and more are, of course, Amanda Beneke, Heather Sharon, and Paris Schutz. So let's start with this. After weeks of pressure, Chicago Board Park District President Avis LaVelle, she's out. Take a look at what she said at today's board meeting.
This will be my last meeting, my last day as president and as a member of the Chicago Park District Board of Commissioners.
Good riddance.
And let me be clear. I am not being forced out. Mayor Lightfoot did not ask me to resign. She has been resolute in her support of me publicly and privately, and for that I am profoundly grateful.
Heather, let's start with you.
And why should anybody be supportive of her when it was her responsibility to react to what was going on there? Heather Sharon remarked on Twitter, LaVelle's resignation announcement used the word integrity 4 times, but did not mention the girls and young women who were abused and then ignored when they complained, nor did she specify who was responsible for that conduct. Going back to WTTW.
Please tell us what happened today and what we believe Avis LaVelle knew.
Well, this was really quite an exclamation point to a nearly 30-year public service career. Avis LaVelle was once Mayor Richard M. Daley's press secretary.
And she failed upward.
And has served on the Chicago School Board and various and assorted other positions. She acknowledged a week ago that she trusted now ousted Park Board Superintendent Mike Kelly to...
Of course she did. Of course she trusted him, because they all cover each other's asses, even under the midst of a scandal that none of them can swipe back under the cracks.
Properly investigate just several dozen complaints filed by teen lifeguards and young adult lifeguards at Chicago's beaches and pools who said that they were being routinely harassed and abused and in some cases assaulted. Now she said she trusted Kelly to make those investigations, but she acknowledged that she should have paid closer attention. Last week, she insisted during a news conference that she would not resign. And it's not clear what changed between now and then. I should say that I asked the mayor's...
Somebody said, get your ass out of here, is what happened behind the scenes. Oh, there was nothing to see here with the scandal. Oh, nobody's forcing me out now that I've dug my heels in to ignore it and not addressed what actually happened or who was responsible for it. Hey, Art, thanks for joining us tonight. And yes, it should be apparent by now that no one can get away with anything, but do seem to get away doing everything. Ugh.
Office to confirm that she did not ask Avis LaVelle to resign, and the mayor's office very pointedly did not, merely thanking her for her decades of city services.
Thank you.
It was clear that
Thank you, Avis.
Criticism of her
Thank you, Avis.
was not going away, and there were real questions about whether the Park District could move on from this scandal, as the mayor very much wants it to do, with her still in that position as Park Board President.
And Paris, as Heather just said, the mayor did not call for Avis LaVelle's resignation, as she did for Superintendent Mike Kelly. Why?
Well, a number of aldermen had called for it. And as Heather mentioned, Avis LaVelle has had a long career in Chicago politics. Lori Lightfoot has known her for a while. She was a former...
Why wasn't Avis out the door the moment she didn't do anything? Why does it always come to this point with these public officials that it has to take them with their backs up against the wall? Look at Jim Gardner in city council. He's got the feds investigating him now for terrorizing people in his ward. How can that asshole get any good work done with this scandal just raining on his head? Their egos will not allow them to resign. They waste time, they waste money, they waste the public's attention. So many important things that need to be done are ignored because of this stuff all the time. The moment this stuff happens, investigate it quick, get them out.
For Mayor Richard M. Daley's press secretary. And one could surmise that Lightfoot had a discussion with her saying, look, resign on your own accord to, I guess, give yourself a more distinguished exit than just having me publicly fire you.
Why did they even afford her that? Why does she need a dignified exit? She was derelict in her responsibilities, yet they still want to give her a dignified exit. Do you know in other countries when I think it's, I don't know if it's Japan or China, when CEOs screw up at corporations, there are death sentences. Now, that might be a little bit extreme over here, although I don't know. We've been talking about pitchforks, torches, and guillotines for quite some time now in jest. But when voting doesn't seem to do anything, I don't know.
Keep your dignity, and at the same time, Avis LaVelle is not accused of any kind of wrongdoing, but she did lead this board that that sort of failed to step in and do anything as all this was happening. So that could be why, as Heather said, Lightfoot did not confirm LaVelle's statement that Lightfoot said don't resign or that I'm not going to have anything to do with this. So one could surmise that kind of discussion.
And
Ed.
Amanda.
Hey, Jerry. Ed Heller has joined us. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad you jumped in. You have some thoughts.
Not a whole lot of thoughts. I mean, other than what we really already know. Avis LaVelle has been a mainstay in Chicago media who moved on to civics and politics. And so she's been working these circles of connections for decades. So it's not
there's retention. It's a retention. Why do we retain these people? It's because of all the inside connections and everybody covering each other's asses.
And it's the Chicago machine extended all the way out.
Yeah.
And it's just that they're so used to just operating this way where one hand washes the other that it's just their standard operating procedure, which is why things happen where one guy goes out and the next person who probably also should have gone ends up staying for a little while unless they really screw up or unless there's a serious amount of public outrage.
Yeah, I mean, we see it over and over and over again here. Let me continue with the panel at TTW.
What do we know about how the Park District is moving forward to make sure that this sort of scandal, the sort of treatment that the alleged victims experience, that this doesn't happen again?
That is the most important thing. How are they going to stop it from happening again, despite the fact it happened for as long as it did to begin with?
Well, so in part, it is with LaVelle's moving on that they hope to do just that. There's reporting of board members who say they're frustrated that LaVelle did not communicate with them this situation. And in her resignation, it is not the fault of the rest of the board. While she said, I take responsibility, though she did say that.
But I don't take responsibility.
Forward, the investigation will prove that she acted in a responsible fashion with integrity. She
went to the ROM school of I take responsibility.
Made a point to say the rest of the board didn't know, and the board members again seemed to be very frustrated that they were caught unawares of all that was going on. Also changes right now in interim leader, a new CEO, of course, in place for Kelly, and then there's a new Office of Protection going forward that is supposed to be handling any sort of allegations of abuse, discrimination, compassionate culture is what the interim CEO is calling for, and more training.
So,
well, okay, so those are some good first steps. The whole I don't know where the compassion was lacking before. Well, I guess I do, because our society just seems to lack it everywhere, especially in big business or politics. It's just a state of affairs, right, Ed?
Yeah, there's definitely a thing. It's a culture of cover-ups
and abuse. We saw it in entertainment with the Harvey Weinstein scandal. Everybody in Hollywood. Look, when I was out in Los Angeles many, many years ago, it was kind of an open secret, all the harassment, sexual harassment, what actresses had to do. At the same time, I'm out there hearing this. I'm like, why are people putting up with this? Why is this acceptable? And it took, one brave woman in New York to finally stand up and say enough. with Weinstein. Now, several young women came out in this abuse scandal on a different level here locally within the lifeguard program in the park district. But I'm constantly left speechless, Ed. I mean, maybe because I was raised right, and I can't imagine harassing women sexually. And I'm lucky that my friends and people I surround myself with are not like that. The world is very, very different from how I was brought up, or how I would hope and expect people would treat each other with respect, of either any gender, of any race, of any belief. I know I'm sounding utopian and idealistic there. It's not that fucking hard. So, but I do think that, why we see it out of control in entertainment and politics and in service and in big businesses and corporations is because it draws sociopaths to leadership. It draws people who will stop at nothing and don't care. They don't have a conscience. They don't have any remorse about the cost of what the standard is to do business everywhere. And this is an indictment of our culture and how we've accepted it for so long. It's out of control that people become numb to it until finally some brave people step forward, like these young women, although they were ignored for so long, and people like LaVelle and Mike Kelly just turned a blind eye to it until finally a blind eye couldn't stay shut.
I don't have anything else to add to that.